Hey guys, my name is Courtney Ferguson, and this is my library assignment. So the graphic novel that I chose is Dishonored Volume 1, The Wyrmwood Deceit. Its creative team is that it was written by Gordon Rennie, art by Andrea Olimpieri, colors by Marcelo Maiolo, and lettering by Rob Steen. It was published by Titan Comics in 2017, and it's got about 99 pages. As for question 5, I would consider Dishonored Volume 1 a mixture of a genuine graphic novel and a compilation. It's got 99 pages of just one big solid story, but at the same time it's broken up into 4 issues, so I think it's a little mixture of both. Let's go on to the next parts. On page 23, Act 2 ends on page 66, and Act 3 ends on page 86. And between those acts, there are new issues. So there's 1 issue in Act 1, 2 issues in Act 2, and 1 issue in Act 3. When I was first reading this, I didn't think that it did follow the 1/4, 1/2, 1/4 rule, but it turns out it does, so that's actually pretty cool. It's really good pacing for the story too, so I understand why this is a general rule. There's 2 people we follow. The story itself belongs to Corvo Attano. With this graphic novel taking place between the first and second Dishonored games, it was kinda always going to be his story. And the goal for this specifically is to find his long-lost sister Beatrice. He ends up running into what he believes is his nephew, and through everything, he's on this epic quest to finally find her through him. On pages 43 and 44, as you can see here, Corvo fights a bone charm-laden broken Tom and ends up killing him just to clear a path. As for a solid story arc, I would say that this story has a clear beginning, middle, and end, if you're familiar with the franchise, i.e. the video games. It starts off with Corvo trying to find his sister because of finding his nephew, and as he fights through other people, we end up switching to a guardswoman, which is Officer Cottings, who is looking for Corvo. The story itself is revealed more through her exposition and dialogue than it is through Corvo, but Corvo is always a step ahead of her, so he claims most of the action. The end is open, because there's more graphic novels after this one, but it feels pretty conclusive in its own right. I find it very satisfying because I've played both of the games and their DLC, so when they introduced Billy Lurk at the end of the graphic novel, I was instantly roped right in. I know that she was Dowd's apprentice, and she's a great character to learn about and play in Dishonored 2: Death of an Outsider, so I want to know more about her. Corvo himself doesn't have a drastic character arc. The only thing he really goes through is having even more distrust than before. He grew weak at the thought of having a nephew and finding his sister, and then once he realized his nephew wasn't actually real, he lets him go and finds new purpose, saving his daughter, Empress Emily. However, he doesn't really have any drastic changes to a personality because it doesn't fit who Corvo is as a person. In the games, you can make him forgiving or unforgiving, high chaos or low chaos, but Corvo is still Corvo. He's still a cold assassin who would do anything to protect his daughter. As you can see here. Pretty cool, right? The story doesn't have very obvious transitions, that is, it doesn't have captions to explain where we are, except right here. This is the biggest flashback in the graphic novel on pages 26 and then the next one 27, and all we get is this caption up here that says Sarkonos a lifetime ago. So not real specific, and you might not understand it at first, but if you played the game you instantly know that we're going back here because this is where Corvo grew up. So after you get through this part, you see that we're still in the flashback, and then you just have to infer that, bam, we're back to the present, and he's doing something else now. If that bothers you, then this probably isn't the graphic novel for you, but I'm cool with it, so it's fine. As for the flashes between Officer Cottings and Corvo, there is not any obvious switch between those two, other than the fact that one or the other is not on the page. So as you can see here, we're with Corvo, and then you'll go on into the future, and it'll be Cottings without Corvo in it, which means that she's still searching for him and Corvo's doing his own thing. That's really all you get. Out of McCloud's 6 different transitions, this comic seems to have action-to-action transitions and subject-to-subject transitions. So we can see subject-to-subject here in the calmer parts of the graphic novel, where we see Officer Cottings moving through one area, and then Corvo moving through the same area at an earlier time. And then you see action to action in places right after it, like fight scenes. You can definitely see it more on page 41, where she's fighting the bewitched painting all through this. So I've combined questions 12 and 13 to answer at once, because I think they go hand in hand. The story, I believe, makes very effective use of that page as a mini-comic idea, especially right here on pages 55 and 56. We see Officer Coddings walking closer and closer into frame with each panel on page 55 here, as she slowly goes into frame, and then moving onto the camera, as it were, and speaking to Esmeralda, which is that lovely lady. Finally, by the end of page 56, you're drawn into the comic and you want to turn the page and find out more because of because that's pretty horrific, and her gouged out eyes. It's very sudden and dramatic, which makes it a great end to the page, and I think it engages readers to want to read more, because it certainly did for me. And that's what I mean by the mini-comic and directional flow going hand in hand. I mean, these two pages feel like they could be their own standalone comic besides being with Dishonored, and the directional flow that you see all through here makes you want to it just pulls you in. It makes you want to read more. As far as recommending this comic for both friends and classmates, I would say I recommend it to anyone who enjoyed the Dishonored games and wants more of the lore and the characters involved. It obviously is not a comic for someone to just pick up, because there would be a lot they wouldn't understand that's covered in the games themselves. But if you enjoy the lore, pacing, and style of the video games, you would very much enjoy this comic. It keeps the characters we know true to their personalities and their looks, and even offers more insight into their lives, including more of Corvo's backstory. This comic is canon to the universe as well, so it's more than fanfiction. It's genuine detail based on the world Bethesda and Arcane built. As for the fun fact, I think it's kind of cool to know that Beatrice, his sister, is first introduced into this issue, and she's revealed to be one of Delilah Copperspoon's witches, which is the main antagonist of the Dishonored 2 game. However, she's never in the game itself, so it makes me think that if they go on in the future with the games, they could make her as an enemy, and Corvo could very well fight his own sister. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, like I said, if you guys like the video games, then you'll love this graphic novel.